What's up, everybody? So someone brought to my attention, as many horror movies as I review, I never actually reviewed a horror franchise in its entirety. So a few months ago, I took a poll on which horror franchise you would like me to review in its entirety, and well, conveniently, the winner is... With the success of Black Christmas and Halloween, the holiday horror slasher subgenre was born. Producer Sean Cunningham and director Steve Miner decided to have a go at the horror subgenre, well, frankly, because...
The idea for Friday the 13th came out of, actually, need and desperation.
I appreciate his honesty there. Legend has it Sean Cunningham came up with the title only and decided to put an ad out to get some media attention and possibly some additional producers, and well...
It worked!
Except there was one minor problem.
The only problem was, I didn't have a script or a start date.
Alright, let's talk about the original Friday the 13th. Ah yes, this song here. Every time I sing it, play it, or hear it, the first thing that comes out of my mouth is... Oh God, I'm horny. Our teens get caught performing the forbidden dance, and well, the only outcome would be this. She's doing the best that she can to try to outrun the cameraman here, but the one thing she can't outrun is slow motion. Then we get my personal favorite, the classic freeze shot close-up. We are now in the present time, and we're introduced to a new character and possibly our final girl.
Hi, girl. Excuse me. Hi, boy.
Even the dog knows she's cursed.
How far is it to Camp Crystal Lake?
You're doomed if you stay here.
When Annie walks into this diner, the patrons look at her like if she walked into the diner saying this.
Large Marge sent me.
She definitely didn't say that, but the people in the diner are giving off the same reaction. When Annie asks for directions on how to get to Camp Crystal Lake and also drops the information of, hey, the camp is opening up soon and I'm also going to be an employee. The way these people at this diner react to this information that Annie just dropped kind of gives me the impression they know something's about to go down, and if Annie goes, something bad will probably happen to her too. And very clearly Annie is oblivious.
You sure as hell can take a hint.
Man, this poor truck driver, he couldn't even enjoy his sandwich. He got suckered into giving her a ride. Whoa! Holy hell, Freddy Krueger! I always found Crazy Ralph essential to these movies, and he probably had a really interesting backstory. People always seem to dismiss poor Ralph.
God damn it, Ralph, get out of here. Go on!
Why do people run from me?
Truck driver's doing a pretty good job at dumping some exposition here, and Annie's just not taking the hint.
Quit.
Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
Alright, let's meet the rest of the victims. I mean cast? Nah, no one very recognizable. Well, the only celebrity I'm recognizing in this movie is Weird Al Yankovic. Our wacky teens are helping this camp get started, and our possible final girl named Alice is an artist.
You draw very well. You're very talented. And you're very pretty.
Well, yes, Alice. The only other person I know that could sport a sexy haircut like that is Michael J. Fox, and he's not here. Through the years, I've seen this movie maybe hundreds of times, and the more I see it, the more I'm starting to come up with the theory that there's maybe two killers. Put a pin on that idea. Listen, I know Alice is probably going to be our final girl, but what kind of weed is she smoking? Because she clearly can't see that the killer is standing right in front of her, and it's obviously Jason. The movie does a pretty good job as far as keeping mystery on who the killer could possibly be. The film does kind of come off like a whodunit murder mystery type of film. Even Steve here looks like he could be a possible suspect when he leaves. Ta-da! Foreshadow. And even though I said this kind of feels like a murder mystery, I never once thought that these teens were actually going to be the killer, though. And we could definitely say Ned is the Franklin of the movie. But the real question is... how's Annie? Annie gets picked up by Michael Myers, hoping to get to Camp Crystal Lake peacefully. The more scared and uncomfortable Annie looks in the scene, the more it looks like she has to go to the bathroom really bad, and the driver refuses to stop.
I think we better stop. Please?
Did Annie survive? Nope. If these punk kids only knew that the killer felt that that was in bad taste. Meanwhile, Alice is in the kitchen getting ready to make a fine pot of homemade menudo. Okay, seriously, what's with people named Ralph hiding in the closet all day long?
I've been here 2 hours, and Bart still hasn't finded me.
Alright, enough of Crazy Ralph, let's get into some carnage. Ned, the unfunny comic relief, how's he gonna go? Okay, who was that? It's clearly not Jason, nor is it the killer that's revealed at the end of the movie. Well, that's it for Ned. He was just off-screen to death.
Look, Nettie's gonna do whatever Nettie wants to do, you know? It's gonna storm.
Lightning or someone hitting the alarm to their car? You decide. Jack and Marcy decide to bump uglies, and now their fate has been decided.
I said, Lizzie, you'll always be playing.
Fornicating and bad impressions gets you this! You're probably wondering why I didn't show you Kevin Bacon's death scene. Well, he actually managed to escape. But clearly he is very upset about leaving his friends all behind to die. I'm just kidding, I'm just joshing you. While all that was going on, Steve was at the diner where Clark Kent got beat up. Well, Steve decided to pay his bill and go check up on them crazy teens.
Friday the 13th. You may only see it once, but that will be enough. Friday the 13th. Rated R.
Alright, so now let's go see what the rest of the group is up to. So this is the part of the movie where my brain really comes to life and I start really coming up with some deep theories here. So check this out. So Brenda is clearly hearing what sounds like a little boy screaming for help, and she goes to check it out. So my working theory is there was a young boy out there screaming for help, luring Brenda outside. Put a pin in that theory, please. Oh look, foreshadowing pays off. Remember Steve? Well, he got caught up in some rain, but he did manage to make it back to the camp okay, and he's gone. Alice and what's his name, I think his name is Bill, are the only two that are left alive at the moment at the camp. Oh yeah, whatever happened to Bill? And he's dead. Alice is left all alone. She's got to do the final girl thing and fend for herself.
This is my house. I have to defend it.
You know, this is actually pretty clever. I gotta give the writers and the director a lot of credit for this, because this is some pretty awesome final girl stuff here. Okay, seriously, who the hell did that? Which goes back to my theory that there are two killers. Mrs. Voorhees. How in the hell did she manage to throw someone through a window, run back up a hill, then drive back down in her car to make it look like she was not the killer? Mrs. Voorhees is played by veteran actress Betsy Palmer, who is a well-known TV actress and film actress. When the filmmakers reached out to Betsy Palmer to see if she wanted to play the psychotic, grieving mother of Mrs. Voorhees, she initially turned down the role the first time around because at the time, horror movies were kind of considered lowbrow, but she later reconsidered and reached out to the filmmakers because she needed a new car. As I've grown older, I've come to really appreciate the complex, psychotic, grieving mother character of Mrs. Voorhees. Even though Betsy Palmer doesn't have a whole lot of screen time, man, she puts those veteran acting skills to use. There is so much emotion that she's emoting not only with her facial expressions and her tics, also in her voice. We learned that Mrs. Voorhees' son Jason drowned at Camp Crystal Lake due to neglect by the counselors. Now, with the way Betsy Palmer delivers this exposition here, you can either take it as face value, or you can do what I did and dig really deep into it. As many times have I seen this movie has actually affected me more in the last couple years, maybe because I too am a mama's boy. But I really started to dig deep into Betsy Palmer's performance, and not only that, the actual character's motivation. I think of Mrs. Voorhees as a single mother who loved her son and probably overprotected him because he was just, well, a little different. Perhaps Mrs. Voorhees and young Jason lived isolated in a cabin in the woods, and she only kept him isolated because, well, she wanted to protect him from the outside cruel world. And as Jason got older, he wanted to be with kids his own age and actually want to go out and be socialized. Maybe against her better judgment, Mrs. Voorhees didn't want to deny Jason being social and having friends his own age. So she enrolled him at Camp Crystal Lake and noticed there was a job opening for a cook, so she thought to herself, hey, I could work here and keep an eye on my son at the same time. Then the accident happened, Jason drowned, and Mrs. Voorhees knew something like this would happen. So all that guilt, sadness, grief, she just snapped. Back to the final showdown. Oh! Finger hook to the cooter. Ooh. If you're gonna do a final fight scene, you might as well do it on a beach. Just like the girl in the beginning of the movie, Mrs. Voorhees can't outrun slow motion. The look on Mrs. Voorhees' face right here almost looks like she's about to say,
I'm sorry!
Mrs. Voorhees got hit so hard she grew man hands. Yes, nothing like a stroll on the lake after everyone you know dies. The way this scene is shot and the way the music is right here, I'm not sure who I was expecting to pop out of the lake, Jason or Laura Palmer. Originally, this was just supposed to be a dream sequence slash gag slash final jump scare before the movie ended, and it was supposed to be a one and done type of thing. Well, thank God, one and done, so that doesn't mean I have to review anymore, right? The budget of the film was $550,000 and the box office opening weekend was $60 million. So Paramount Studios and the filmmakers thought, hey, if we keep the budget low and the body count high, you bet your ass we're going to be making a lot more of these. So I've always enjoyed this movie. It wasn't my favorite in the franchise, but I always appreciate it as a low-budget horror film. Like I said earlier, I've grown to appreciate this movie even more as I've gotten older because I feel like this is more like a really good psychological horror film. Between the writing for Mrs. Voorhees and Betsy Palmer's performance, the character of Mrs. Voorhees is very underrated, and I think Betsy Palmer deserves a lot more kudos for this. We got great special effects by legendary makeup artist Tom Savini, great use of locations. The story is simple enough to follow. The writers did a pretty good job as far as keeping things mysterious and also leaving enough clues slash breadcrumbs out for you. You can also interpret things the way you'd like. Also, my theory is Mrs. Voorhees was not doing this alone. Jason was actually with her the entire time. That's who was calling Brenda out in the field. And Jason is the one who threw Brenda through the window while Mrs. Voorhees was coming down the hill in the Jeep. And let's not forget, throwing bodies through a window is kind of Jason's move. Unless he inherited it from his mom? So my rating for the original Friday the 13th film is, it's an underrated masterpiece and should be taught in film school. Well, I got 12 more of these to review, I think, so are you a big fan of Friday the 13th? Please like and comment below and let me know. Did you like this review? Was it entertaining? Let me know. Comment below. And please don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I'm Mike the Movie Misfit, and I'll see you at the movies.
Well, at least we know what's for dinner.
Oh!